Good morning, everyone. I'm Krishna, product owner of Microsoft AI Translator, and I have Marty from Lexmark and Michelle from Microsoft with me on stage to make some new announcements and cool demos. Before we dwell into the session, I'm excited to share that Azure AI Translator and Azure AI services are being actively used by more than 60,000 organizations. Let's get into the session. Language barriers. To most of us, this sounds like a communication barrier, but it's more than that. Today, wealth of information exists in a very limited set of languages. Likewise, several technologies, including GenAI, are built on top of a very limited set of languages. This means we deprive knowledge and technology to people who don't know any of these languages, and we deprive them to learn, grow, and excel. Even people who know some of these languages, say English, their proficiency to read, write, learn, and think differs a lot. So that's why this is more important, right? So these language barriers bring several challenges to an enterprise organization. How do we ensure effective communication among employees? How do we train the employees who speak multiple languages? How to reach out to all my customers across the globe? And how to scale my business? And how to gather comprehensive business intelligence, which is scattered not just in my business language, but across any other language in the world. So that's where breaking down the language barriers provides a level playing field to empower everyone in the organization to excel in their own way. Azure AI Translator is an enterprise-ready service which removes these language barriers by enabling translation of text, documents, and speech. The document translation feature translates the whole document in more than 30 file types, retaining the format and layout as in the source document. It also provides an interface to fine-tune machine translation models to your industry-specific terminologies and your organization-specific style of translation without needing an expertise in machine learning at all. You can get all these capabilities anywhere in the cloud or on premises or on a device, say on a mobile phone. Now we are adding a new capability to communicate in real time, in person, in different languages through an enterprise-ready Microsoft Translator Pro. You will learn more about this in this session today. Now this Azure AI Translator can translate text and documents in 135 languages and dialects. Everything is listed over here. And currently, we support conversation translation on all the languages which are board, but we'll be adding soon for the rest of them. I'm happy to announce in this Ignite session 3 new capabilities. Number 1, by January 2025, we would have the document translation translates not just the text, but also the text embedded in an image within a Word document. Number 2, we are announcing the Microsoft Translator Pro app as a public preview. The app leverages various Azure AI services internally to enable a one-to-one in-person conversation. Number 3, we are announcing Translator SDK as a general availability, which simplifies the adoption of these services and to build your own solution. Let me share a sneak peek of what's going to be this upcoming feature to translate text embedded in an image. So here you see an original document on the left, and you see a translated document in the middle, which is the current state. And on the right, what you see is the upcoming feature functionality. Let me show you a closer look here. Here you can see all the entire document is in English, which is a source document. Now you see the translated document in Spanish, whereas the image having the text still remains in English. In Jan 2025, when we release the new capabilities, now you'll have not just the digital text get translated, but even the text embedded within an image will get translated. Earlier, we talked about organizational challenges in multiple organizations, right? Now, we have a simple solution to break the language barrier by adding capability to create documents in multiple languages very easily. Since SharePoint is widely used among the organization, we took SharePoint as a case for us to build a solution. So let me quickly show you. So this is your standard SharePoint. So all we need to do is your SharePoint administrator links the Azure subscription to Microsoft Syntax. And they decide among the employees in your organization, the user groups who can access this feature, and that's it. Once that configuration is done, the employees will automatically get this functionality in their SharePoint. Say here, there's a document here, and the user can just go, click on it, right-click, and you have all this copy, move to functionality there, you have translate. You can just translate it, and you can choose any of the languages you want to translate. Say, Ukrainian, and you also see here something called glossary. So this is where we come into play. Suppose the document has specific terminology to your organization, you can pass the terminology text as part of the file, and then you can just translate. And the document goes back to our translation service and get it translated, come back. And not just that. If you have a set of folder and you want to translate in a very automated way, you want to translate all the documents which goes into a particular folder, all you can do is you can set up a rule, automated rules, and here I will already created a rule which will, whenever you drop a new file into that particular folder, it creates a translated copy in a Spanish language. So that's a rule I created, but you can feel free to create any of the rules using the SharePoint functionality. Now let me drop a document here. Just for the purpose of demo, I'm just going to drop a document here, and you will see that will get translated quickly. Let me refresh this and come back after some time, and you will see the document getting translated. We'll switch to the screens later. And earlier I mentioned about technology getting advanced in limited set of languages. GenAI is a very good example. I'm going to take that as an example and see how we can break the language barrier in GenAI. One of the most popular use case scenario in GenAI is customers search on your data to address their needs. This works perfect when both the customer query as well as the knowledge base, what you have matches the same language. Say the customer query is in English and your knowledge base is in English, perfect. Yeah, it does a very good job. And what happens if the customer queries in a totally different language and you don't have the knowledge base in it? That's where the GenAI doesn't provide comprehensive information. And for those customers, integrating Azure AI Translator with it, Azure AI Translator with GenAI will provide an excellent response. Here is an example, a simple question asked both in English and Armenian language, how to renew a driver license in Chicago. You can see a very comprehensive response when the question is in English, whereas not so great response when the same query is issued in Armenian language. Likewise, your organization would have developed right set of prompts and validated those in GenAI for quality for a small set of languages, say for English, Spanish, German, blah, blah, blah. But now, when you want to scale the business across the globe, it's not practical or super expensive to validate the GenAI quality for all those international languages. In such scenario, you can use Azure AI Translator in combination with the GenAI to get a very good multilingual generative AI, which is cost-effective and performant. Here's a simple workflow. Just direct the language of the source query and have a logic to determine whether it needs a translation. Use the Azure AI translator. Translate the request in the preferred language, say English, and send it to GenAI. And once the GenAI provides the response, and retranslate it back into the requested language. That way, you will get an awesome response. Here is an example. So now once we have the query translated using Azure AI translator, now you see an Armenian response is as consistent and accurate as English query. So far, you have seen examples of Azure AI translator breaking language barriers in technology. And before, one second. The translation's not yet out. We'll come back to that. So far, you have seen examples of Azure AI translator breaking barriers in GenAI and information technology. Now I'm going to be excited with have Marty on from Lexmark, who has integrated our document translation in a multifunction printer and addressing the real-world language barrier problem. So over to Marty. And before we end the session, I will come back on the document translation.
Thanks, Krishna. Good morning, everybody. As Krishna mentioned, my name is Marty DeGraff. I'm the Educational Industry Director at Lexmark. You may be surprised to see this high-tech piece of equipment sitting up here, a printer. You may be surprised to see a printer here at Ignite. But we have multiple different strategic initiatives going on with Microsoft at Lexmark. For instance, one of them is we've been in the managed print services business for over 20 years. Essentially, a printer is an IoT device. And so Microsoft is helping us take our expertise of managing devices, building out our platform, and now offering the capability to our manufacturing customers, such as medical device equipment manufacturers, so that they can offer managed services to their customers. They're helping us also build out end-to-end edge compute platform, both the hardware and the software. And they're also, more importantly, what I'm here to talk to you today about is they're taking some of our legacy paper-based solution applications and moving them to the cloud and utilizing the Lexmark the translation services from Azure. The Lexmark translation solution is actually one of our most popular solutions. It's been a long time since I've gone to a trade show with a printer or a copier on a table and have had a crowd of people waiting for a demonstration. But when I go to these education shows, people are lined up to see this in action. And education is one of the focus areas for us with this solution. Why? Because they have a very large and unique language barrier challenge. In the United States, 1 out of every public school students are learning to speak English. This poses a tremendous challenge for the education system. And you can see from the map, it's not just a coastal issue. It's not just a large city issue. If you take a look at Oklahoma and Kansas, up to 9% of the students in those areas in the heartland of America is still learning English to speak in schools. Research shows that teachers are less likely to reach out to parents when they fear the language is going to be a barrier. Translation services are extremely expensive for these schools. It's very important, especially for special education students that have individualized education plans, IEPs, that need to be communicated to the parents to keep them informed of what needs to be taking place. So it's very expensive, yet it is also mandated. This is a civil rights scenario based from the Department of Justice and the education, where anything sent home with a student needs to be sent home in the language spoken at home. So it's a very costly and a huge challenge for many of these school districts. So let's focus again on how the parents feel. Imagine getting this document home. Anybody take a wild guess at what language this is? I know this is an international conference, so some people may realize if I looked at this, I'll be honest, I would have no idea, right? What information might you gather from this information, though, right? Numbers are somewhat universal, so maybe I can understand something there. But how would this make you feel as a parent, right? disconnected, uninformed, right? And the challenge is also, this, by the way, this document is Swahili. In Swahili. There's a reason why I chose this document. This is the actual document that a teacher brought to us a number of years ago that said, look, I'm getting, this is a simple permission slip, right? Parents are not signing this. Can I make a copy of this and have it translated into various languages? In Lexington, Kentucky, the challenge that we had, which is where Lexmark is based, this is where I live, the third most spoken language is, in fact, Swahili. Our education system there is not equipped to transform all these documents, to translate all these documents that need to be translated for those parents of the students that speak Swahili. Why Swahili? It's because the churches bring the refugees into Lexington. It's the second most concentration of people, the refugees from Congo are in Lexington, Kentucky. So this is the challenge that schools are facing across the United States and in many other areas. So with one click of a button, as easy as making a copy, we can now translate this document into a number of different languages. So education, as I mentioned, is where we're focusing first and foremost. It's better learning for the students, better communication. We're seeing application in healthcare, not necessarily on the clinical information, but really the just marketing information, follow-up information on your next appointment. The retail customers, not only will help them reach their customers better, but their employees, right? When they have to ramp up the employees for the holiday season, they can translate forms and other documentation into usable information for them. And then obviously government, we're still there are many, many paper-based processes and forms that need to be translated from many different people. So enough talking, let's take a look at this in action. Before I go up to the device, I will show you on the screen what I'm going to show you on the device first and foremost. So we've built an application. You can see it in the bottom left-hand corner. It's called Lexmark Translation Assistant, and we can add this icon directly to our home screen of our device. I will log in with, I can use a simple PIN. I can use a more complex password. Ideally, we will badge authenticate for many of these schools. Once I do this, I am authenticating directly with Microsoft's cloud, right? Of course, our attorneys made us put up some T's and C's, so I accept the terms and conditions. And now the fun begins. I can select the language of the document, the source language that the document is in. We've also have an auto detect, because I'll be honest, if somebody brings me something in Korean or Mandarin, I would not know the difference. And so I can auto detect the language. I can then select how do I want this? I select the source language, I select the destination language. I can print this, which is ideal for Lexmark because we're a printer company and we like burning up some toner, right? But I can also email it for potentially some post-processing capabilities afterwards. So teachers love this, right? Where maybe they need to make a couple of different edits to this. And then I select the number of copies and just the normal copying formatting. And in about 40 or 45 seconds, you're seeing hard copy, the original document on the left, translated document on the right. Now this is great to translate English documents into another language. It also obviously works reverse. I love giving a demonstration of this document that you see on the screen now because it contains roughly about 14 different languages on one document. I can auto-detect every one of these languages and ask it to convert into English, and you can see on the right-hand side the English version of all of those various languages. So let me pause there. I'll leave this up and show you just how quick it is. On the MFP, I'm going to select the Lexmark translation solution. As I described, I'm going to enter in my PIN. I'll select next. I know this is an English document, and I want this in Spanish, and I want it in simplified Chinese as well. Number of copies, just one copy of each, please. I'm going to print this, because I mentioned we like toner, and I'll hit send. And there we go. Now, if you think about this, OCR technology has been around since the 90s. I've been in the print industry for 30 years now. Translation services are out there. This is really a true document translator that's happening, right? An English word might be this long, Spanish word that long, German word might be that long. Microsoft has the capability to understand the context of the document and say, I know this word is in a table, I need to maybe potentially shrink the font down, right? Of course, this is going to seem like it's taken 10 years because I'm on stage, but really it's only about 40, 45 seconds. And only Microsoft, we started this project a number of years ago. We looked at multiple different vendors. The speed, the accuracy that these documents come back in is really amazing. Not only the speed of the translation of the documents, you can hear potentially that it's already printing 2 copies, 1 of each language, but the speed of development time was incredible. I really thought this project was dead before we became a partner with Microsoft, and they were able to come in and really drive this project home for us. So, I'd love to pass this around. It's a large audience, but afterwards, I promise you we have time if you want to see this in action. We can test it. We can test various languages. We can test handwriting, but it's really a great solution. So in about 45 seconds, I now have 2 translated printed documents, and it's just amazing. I never thought we'd be here, but thanks to Microsoft, this is what we're able to do. Let me introduce Michelle. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Marty. That's amazing, absolutely amazing. So you've seen a lot so far this morning. Here's the clicker. Krishna walked us through text translation, how you do text translation with your generative AI. We've shown you document translation, how you can use our APIs, not only to build applications, you can leverage out-of-the-box solutions in SharePoint, and how if you're building cool devices like Lexmark, you can take our technology, integrate it with your hardware, and build some really innovative solutions that solve real-world problems. Now I'm excited to talk to you about a new application we've built called Microsoft Translator Pro. And it's really designed to help break down these language barriers. If you think about communication, we communicate each and every day, and spoken communication is a little different than written communication in that you have to process in real time and understand what I'm saying. And in order for communication to be effective, you not only need to hear what I'm saying, you need to comprehend it and understand it, and perhaps sometimes be able to ask questions. And this creates a real challenge when there's a language barrier. And language barriers often appear in 2 different ways. I think the thing most people think of is, oh, that person doesn't speak the same language I do, so they can't understand me. But there's many people who are multilingual, but they may not be fluent in the language. So you think they understand because they speak a little bit of English, but they may have questions and they may be afraid to ask questions because they don't want to look stupid. They don't want to say something that would be incorrect. And so we need ways to help break down these language barriers, and the new Microsoft Translator Pro is designed to do just that. We looked at some research to understand what are the language barriers in the workplace. And it's pretty interesting. 9 out of 10 US employers rely on employees with language skills other than English. Think about that as a manager trying to communicate to a new employee and explain what they need to do. Even something as simple as what time you need to show up for work in the morning. Right? Imagine how scared you might be of losing your job because you misunderstood what time you were supposed to be there or what you were supposed to do that day. And you can see a lot of stats here. I won't go through them in all detail, but there's real challenges that exist in the workplace today. Now, I meet with customers all around the world, both government customers and commercial customers, and we're hearing a lot of trends on the challenges that these organizations face. Governments face significant challenges in communicating with non-native English speakers. There's often services that they are required to provide these citizens, and they must provide that service in their native language. There are local laws requiring language inclusion. Marty talked about some of those in education. They also exist at the state and federal level for something as simple as welfare-type benefits or Social Security, et cetera. Now, if somebody comes into an office and they don't speak a language, the state is required to provide a human translator. That's really expensive, and it's also super inefficient. I learned if you come into an office and you don't speak a language, the state will provide an interpreter for you, but if one's not available, then they ask you to come back and make an appointment. We can get an interpreter next week on Tuesday, please come back, right? And what they've told us is half the time the person doesn't come back for the appointment. So they've hired an interpreter, they've paid for the interpreter, scheduled the appointment, and that person probably didn't understand when they were supposed to come back, they don't come back, right? So highly inefficient process, And what's worse is that person didn't get the help they needed. So there's a real opportunity to reduce cost and accelerate these public interactions. On the commercial side, what we're seeing is there's a lot of frontline workers that are often non-native English speakers. These may be people that work on the factory floor, drive forklifts, drive trucks, et cetera. I talked to one organization where there are a lot of farm workers and they don't speak English. And they're having challenges not only communicating with them on a daily basis, but keeping them engaged in conversations, right? How do you help explain the strategy of the company? How do you make them feel included? How can they ask questions? In addition, training these people is a real challenge. So oftentimes, you think about, you go to get a new job, you have new employee orientation. Imagine taking new employee orientation in a language you're not fluent in. That's really hard and makes it harder for you to do your job successfully. And lastly, there's a lot of customer interactions where people are trying to improve the overall customer experience. Something as simple as going into a restaurant and ordering food. I think we've all traveled overseas before, and you go in and there's a lot of pointing at the menu and hope you get the right thing. Tools like the Microsoft Translator Pro can help facilitate these customer interactions as well. So what's different about this app than the other apps that are on the market? I think we've probably all seen a lot of the consumer-based apps. And the big difference between the Microsoft Enterprise Translator Pro and the consumer apps is the data stays in your Azure tenant. So when you use a consumer app, that data comes to Microsoft. We use it to improve our models and train. That's why those applications exist. That's why they're free. And many organizations wanted an app, but when they start looking at the security requirements, they say, hey, that consumer app doesn't meet our security requirements. Microsoft, can you do something different so that the app is secure? So this new application, all the data stays in your Azure tenant. If you are not connected to the internet, we have embedded models that we use on the device so we can work completely offline. You authenticate using your workplace credentials to the application so that everything is secure. We can detect the language that the person is speaking with about 10 seconds of spoken audio. If you know what language they're speaking, there's a language button there, and it's super simple to just select the language. Today, we have this now working on iOS and a phone or a tablet, and we will have Android coming soon before we bring the product to market. We built this to work on a single device. If you think about all the scenarios I talked about, it would be really cumbersome to try to get two people to install an app on two different devices when they don't speak the same language. So we knew we had to make it work on one device. And you can see there that the screen orientation that you're seeing is designed when one person is standing across from the other so that they can both read the screen at the same time. I can also flip the orientation, so if we're standing side by side, we could both see it right side up from there as well. We do give you the option to save not only the recorded audio, but the transcript. So if it's important for record keeping or other downstream processes, you have all of the data available at your disposal. It's up to your organization what you want to do with that. We've also enabled customized phrasebooks. So if you have things you need to say multiple times a day, instead of having to repeat it and make sure you're repeating it correctly, you can just go to the phrasebook, press play, and it'll generate the audio. So today we support 40+ languages. We have more coming soon. And we have 9 embedded languages supported. We are in a gated public preview, so you have to sign up, fill out a request form, and get access to the preview. We'd love to have as many people join the preview, give us feedback, tell us what's working. We're still in active development, and we want to make sure that this application covers the needs of the broadest set of organizations as possible. Now, when you're having a conversation, you can view and hear the translated conversations from one language to another, so speech to speech. You'll see when the device is listening, we have some green bands there to tell you we're listening. And then when we're playing the translation, it's in red. You have the choice to hear the translation on both sides. So I could hear it in English, as well as the other, like in this case, or I don't know which language this is on the screenshot, but I can hear it in both languages as well as read it. And it's up to you if you want to play it or not. And playing the language is something that's really important. There's many people that can't read. right? Even adults who can't read, but think about small children, a child who's lost somewhere at Disney World or something like that, right? And they need to speak to somebody. If they don't read, how can they communicate? So being able to play that spoken audio is super important to help facilitate that communication. So let's take a look and see this in action. We've got a quick demo here, and we'll show you what a hotel check-in might look like. If I just press that. There we go. For this demo, we're going to be using some wireless microphones to capture the background audio you hear in the room. We've got some music playing, as well as some office-type background noise to simulate the experience you would have with the application in a louder environment. The microphones are only in use for the purposes of shooting the video. All of the interaction with the iPad is happening through the mics on the device. Good afternoon, welcome to the hotel. How can I assist you today?
下午好，欢迎来到酒店。我今天能如何帮助你？
你好，我想预订一个房间。
Of course. May I know the dates you would like to stay at the hotel?
答案是肯定的。我可以知道您想在酒店住宿的日期吗？
我会从8月20号住到8月25号。
Great. We have several room options available for those dates. Would you prefer a single room, a double room, or a suite?
太好了，我们为这些日期提供了多种房间选择。您更喜欢单人间、双人间还是套房？
单人房。
Okay. Would you like a room with a city view or a garden view?
你想要一个能看到城市景观还是花园景观的房间？
花园景观。
Perfect. I have a single room with a garden view available for your dates. The rate is $150 per night. Does that work for you?
完善。我有一个单人间，可以欣赏到花园的景色，供您的约会使用。价格为每晚150。这对你有用吗？
是的，可以。
Okay. I need your name and contact information to complete the booking.
好的，我需要您的姓名和联系信息来完成预订。
好的，我的名字是李明，我的电话号码是206-123-4567。
Perfect. Your room is now booked from August 20th to August 25th. Is there anything else I can assist you with?
完美，您的房间现已预订，从8月20日到8月25日。还有什么我可以帮助你的吗？
不用了，目前就这些，谢谢。
You're welcome. We look forward to welcoming you to our hotel. Have a great day.
别客气，我们期待着欢迎您的光临，祝你有美好的一天。
Thank you. So what you saw there, that was all going to the cloud. We weren't using the offline languages, and you saw how quick it was and how it worked in real time. And that was a combination of our Azure speech-to-text service, our translation service, and our Azure text-to-speech service, using our cross-lingual adaptive voices, so it sounds like a native, in that case, a Chinese speaker. So it's a way that you can stitch a lot of the capabilities we have together to create an experience that hopefully really breaks down these language barriers. So everybody asks, like, okay, how much is it going to cost? And if you have questions, please reach out to your Microsoft account team for specific pricing details. But I want to give you an overview of kind of our approach to pricing this. We are billing you based on the hours used in your organization. Our goal is to get this as in many hands as possible inside an organization. We didn't want organizations to have to think through a licensing of, should I get it for Mary and not for Joe, because Mary's only going to use it 5 minutes, Joe's going to use it 8 hours, and I'm going to prioritize Joe over Mary. With this model, the hours your organization used is aggregated at your organization level, so you can give it to everybody, and they can all benefit in these interactions to help break down the language barriers. We have pay-as-you-go pricing, so it's very easy to get started on a pilot in a super affordable manner to get trying this in a few hours a day. And then we expect that you would buy commitment tiers as you start to roll this out into production environments. If you are going to save the transcripts and the recordings, then you would have an Azure storage account where we upload those to, and you'd have a separate pricing for that. So that gives you an idea. Again, we're trying to make this very approachable and easy for everyone to deploy inside their organization. So we've gone through a lot today in giving you a lot of information about how to break down these language barriers. We've got announcements on our Translator blog that go through not only the Microsoft Translator Pro app, but the translating text with inside images. You can read more about it there. We have our links to our documentation for our standard Azure service for text document translation, and then documentation on the Pro app there as well. Full list of developer resources, links to the studio, and our pricing pages. So we're here to answer any questions you might have. If you want to come up and play with the printer, please come up, and Marty will print all sorts of stuff for you in different languages. If you want to try out the app, I have an iPad up here and happy to do a little one-on-one demos with you. So we'll open it up for questions if anybody has any questions.
And please come to the mic and ask your questions so that everyone listens to it.
Hi, thanks. You've talked about multilingual GenAI before. Could you elaborate a little bit more on how this is achieved, how this is possible, how to integrate the Microsoft Translator into the GenAI?
So the way you use the Azure AI Translator as part of the workflow. So you get a query when the user types a query, you interrupt that and have a business logic. The business logic would know what is your knowledge base you have. Suppose your knowledge base is good in German, Spanish, Dutch, then there's no point in translating that. You can just leave it. And if the query happens to be something like a Russian, Ukrainian, and you don't have the knowledge base in that, then you call Azure AI Translator service.
As a function call.
Pardon?
As a function call. Or how do I call the AI translator?
Oh, so there's an API for that.
Okay.
So that's where the documentation, translated docs, .ms translated docs that has the API information, and then you call it and.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. I have two small questions about the demo. Does he recognize right away the language, or you have to tell him from before in the app in which language he has to translate?
So there's two ways you can do it, and I didn't have it in the video there. One is you can go into a language detect mode. So if the person's talking, I can hit a button and it starts detecting the language. So as they're speaking, it's detecting, and then you start the conversation. If I know what language you speak, then I can select that before I start the conversation. And we didn't, both times. We didn't show that in the demo, but we will get a video of that so people can see what it looks like.
Great. And it's already to be found in the app stores, so we can try it?
No, there's a link you'll see on the website you have to fill out to get access to it. It's a private link in the App Store, so you would deploy it from there, and once your request is approved, then we'll give you the link.
And that's also for the preview also?
Yes,
okay,
yes.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other questions?
All right, well, thank you. One more.
Yeah, maybe I can ask one question here. So maybe it's also related to the 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗶cie and printer. So by one-click button, right, you're able to automatically translate the language from the one what the user needed here. So one thing I'm wondering is how are you sure this translation is correct or accurate to express all the meanings from the the native, the wrong one?
Sure. So from an accuracy perspective, there's a couple challenges with a hard copy document because you never know what the condition of the original document is actually going to be in. Maybe it's handwriting that people are trying to translate. Maybe it's been forwarded. So we don't quote an actual accuracy rate. We've had customers and school systems tell us that they feel that it's between 90 and 95% accurate. And then if it's something that's maybe has to go through a government regulation, then they will bring a translator in and so to finalize that. But it's saving them a tremendous amount of money because the time that they have to spend with that translator is greatly reduced versus having them translate the entire document. Does that answer your question?
I see. So maybe it's very useful for some of the general cases, which is casual cases for some of the entertainment fine. Even if you made a mistake, here's not the deal. However, if this is a legal document, probably you should never use this type of features.
That's right.
Well,
Your translation will make it.
Yeah, you do have the ability to build custom language models. And so if you have industry-specific terminology, the custom language model can improve the quality of the translation for your scenario, right? So let's say that you're dealing a lot with patents, right? Just as an example. You might have terminology that exists there that isn't in our general domain. So you could leverage your existing data to build a patent-specific model and then leverage that when you're doing your translations and improve it. But you need to kind of test the translation for your specific scenarios to make sure the quality bar is where you need it to be.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hope I can ask the last question. I see it's available in AI Studio. Is it also available in Copilot Studio?
So the experience for mission text translation, document translation available in AI Studio or Azure AI Foundry is available today. And the app is separate.
Any other questions?
Feel free to come see some demos.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.